We are live.
Okay, good.
We are live with Patrick. Patrick, how do I pronounce your last name properly?
Because I want to go with this here.
Okay. Put it to the mic. Put it to the mic. I don't know how long you can put that to the mic for without getting us banned off somewhere. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. That always gets me amped. That always gets me amped.
You guys. Here we have a guest.
Oh, Nick is here. Oh, Nick, cool. We have new.
Here, we'll go back to the music.
Patrick's getting ready for the podcast. How do I pronounce your last name, Patrick?
Burchards.
Burchards. This is of which descent?
It is. Hey, Nick, good to see you. It's German.
German
background.
descent.
It goes back so many generations.
And you're just
Germany.
here from Amsterdam. You were in Amsterdam
really,
a few hours ago.
My immediate heritage is Dutch.
And you were in Amsterdam. Why were you in Amsterdam a few hours ago?
Well, I had to operate a flight for KLM.
Pull the mic right in close to you.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yes.
I had to operate a flight from Amsterdam to Toronto. And I arrived at approximately 1:45, got into Uber, and came here.
Oh, yeah, the pilot coat's right here.
Yeah, he was wearing the whole gear when he got in here. But so I just need to know something. When you're flying the plane, are you eating the wraps that we're eating in the back, or are you eating the nice food that the people who are in business class at the front are eating? What food are you eating? I just want to know. Is it the wrap or is it the filet mignon?
You could have the filet mignon, but after a while you might get bored of that.
Oh, no. Oh,
so then you do go for the wrap.
Whoa, you're having that much steak.
So you don't get the pasta. There's no way you get the pasta.
Yeah, look, you've seen everything so many times, and then it's like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you just eat it.
So
these days it's, okay, is it healthy or not?
Yeah,
It's got some broccoli. Okay, I'll have that.
Got it. So where do we start with you? Your real estate. We met you through real estate investing. Now we've been talking about some Bitcoin stuff. Where do we even begin? You lead us.
So you know what? When you do this, you reflect on where you've been, and what I kind of represent is just another investor. I don't know everything. Certainly, Bitcoin is new to me, but I just think that I've gone down that rabbit hole. And maybe, I can share some things that might be helpful for the other listeners. The other thing, though, is that I look back and I go, you know what? I started investing in real estate in 2013. There was a difference. It was a completely different landscape back then. And for me, it was you had Rain, or you had books like, what's his name? Douglas Gray or Don Campbell. Mm-hmm. And, you just kind of threw yourself into it. And away you went. And I remember seeing an ad, and I'm pretty sure it was Rockstar. And I called, and you guys answered. Didn't make an impression, didn't use it. But, here's the thing. I look now.
I saw your ad. Didn't follow up with you guys after I spoke to you.
I don't know who I spoke to. But, here's the point. If I look at what you guys provide today, you guys are the master class in real estate investing. Really.
No, you're being too kind.
No, think about it. You guys have 4 books. You guys set up everybody with not only an agent, but a mentor and a coach for real estate investing. I didn't have that back in the day. Not really. The first night that everybody comes in, they meet you guys. They meet the CEOs of the business. You do 19 shows or 19 classes in the evening. You have a Rolodex, a big, huge Rolodex, podcast.
Patrick knows our business better than we know our business.
We're looking for a sales director.
Yeah,
Would you like?
No, but really. And so I get, for me, what I like is that you come out every quarter or every 4 months, whatever, and you do this real estate update. I just have to listen to that. I'm totally up to speed. Micro, macro, what's happening, GTA, Niagara. Okay, properties are doing well. It seems that, people are still renting. We just went through a corona pandemic and, chillax. It's all good. That was great. So, I guess what I'm going at with this is that when you guys talk about Bitcoin or anything else, maybe it's something to listen to because these guys have steered you in the right direction for all these years. This is something that, maybe you have to pay attention a little bit more than just brushing it off. And so, anyways, I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Yeah. You are being really kind, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason that I feel a little bit like, oh boy, here we go talking about real estate again, or central banking again, or the devaluation of our currency, or artificially low interest rates, or now Bitcoin, because it's all one theme that we feel like if you can figure out the money system, you can live life on your own terms. That's why we believe this, that it is worth all of our time figuring out how the money system works. Because if we can front run some of how the money system works, we can live a life that we choose for ourselves and our families. So that's very cool. And now that we know that you're a pilot, can you confirm for us, is the Earth round? I'm just curious because I've been hearing rumors that it's
rumors
not,
that it's flat.
Yeah,
that it's round.
Is it round?
Yeah, no,
you're
I
sure?
can confirm that. Absolutely.
Really? When you're up there, it looks round to you?
It looks round to me.
Does it? Okay. Okay. You see a curvature?
Yeah, there's a little bit of curvature.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Good.
The one thing I've always wondered, Keith wanted me to remind you to turn the mic on. I don't know if you did or not. Just, yeah.
Your
okay.
mic?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'cause he said
I
it
can
was
hear
off.
you.
Okay.
I can totally hear you.
So
I can actually hear you so much. I'm thinking about turning your mic off.
hey, man, I'm just following directions. Okay. Keith told me to tell you, and that was it. This is the one thing that freaks me while flying, this turbulence thing. Okay. Machines that size aren't supposed to shake that way. But I've been told, I have another friend who's a pilot. He's like, look, Nick, you don't understand. He goes, I've seen some of the planes. He flies for Caribbean. And he's like, sometimes I'm sitting up front, and with his accent, it's hilarious. And he's like, I look back and I see the wings flapping like a bird. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So every time I'm going through this, like what I think is a lot of turbulence, I keep thinking of those, of what he tells me. And I just want to confirm with you, this turbulence thing, when the plane's shaking up and down, we're good still?
We're absolutely good.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
But are the wings?
You
Are the wings?
don't
like-
even want to know what it goes through these aircraft when they test them. They're bending the wings like this, bringing them 90 degrees. And they sit there for days doing this flexing.
See,
just
that's
to
what
see,
freaks me out.
see if it reaches failure.
But when the turbulence is freaking us out in the back, are you freaking out in the front?
Yeah, no.
No. So what does
Yeah,
it,
no, you said yeah, no.
yeah.
Well, I thought it would be cheeky, but no. It's all good. It's all good. It's, you know what? You're flying through a fluid. And so sometimes the fluid, the air is a fluid. And so sometimes the fluid is moving a little bit like this. So you fly through that and it just goes, but it's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah, I
no
don't know.
problem.
So,
Beyond that, I don't.
so now I'm happy because now I have two people. So now I'll listen. I'll think about your voice, Patrick, and I'll think about my friend Sean's voice as well. So I got two people in the back of my head thinking, "You're good. You're good."
I'm usually pretty good with turbulence, but there was one flight from Split to Zagreb in Croatia that had so much turbulence. I was there by myself on that flight. I guess I was there for a wedding way back or whatever, and I remember thinking, do I have to scribble something down on paper because I'm not going to make it? And my meager life's work, who do I leave this to? Because I just thought that was it. Because you have those, I know you're used to it, but some turbulence gets to you. Like it's a bit much.
Oh, I remember landing in New Jersey once, and I guess it was windy or whatever. And I had like just this pit stains by the end of it. I was sweating. I was so like, I was just holding on to that seat, man. I'm like, okay, I think we're good. We're good. Just get me on the damn ground.
Yeah. Well, a neighbor of mine was flying from Rome with KLM to Amsterdam, and it was quite turbulent and windy on approach. And so sometimes during the approach, the aircraft will say wind shear, and the policy is, we go in the go-around. So they go in the go-around. And it was the third attempt that they didn't get the warning and they landed. But for the passengers, they're quite upset. They're just like, why did we,
What the
we were
heck's
about to
going on?
land and we're climbing again. What's going on? And, you have to walk them through it, brief them. And the third time you landed. Yeah.
I feel like some pilots do a better job of briefing people than other pilots. I'm just saying, Patrick.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's
Sometimes
the same-
I'm like, I could use a little bit more information. Are we going to live?
You know
Are
what?
we-
Another big one is a lightning strike. That is like a shotgun going off in the cabin.
So that when the lightning
is-
hits the airplane,
It hits the aircraft.
I don't think I've ever been in
Holy
a
shit.
I
It
don't know.
is the loudest thing. So for us, there's things that the aircraft have to mitigate any damage. You look, instruments are good, plane's flying, it's all good. And 99.999% of the time, that's what happens, right? Maybe an instrument fails, but it's fine. But the first thing you have to do is brief the
Calm.
passengers.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
their hair
Well,
is
you're
like
thinking
this.
bomb. If I heard that, I'd be like, what just went off on this plane, man?
Yeah.
Holy
So it's crazy
smokes.
stuff.
Okay.
Can you imagine
I'm glad you're so
the
casual.
pilots must all get together after a rough
Just
flight and be
laugh.
like, "Oh, did you hear the
see that-
screaming back
Did
there?"
you see
when
that
we-"
big dude who thought he was tough on the way in, just crying like a little baby on his way out?
Well, we'll hear it from the cabin staff because they'll say, Yeah, someone got sick, and then that sets off everybody else. They smell it,
Yeah.
and then everybody's throwing up, and it just gets.
I think
it
I almost
snowballs.
gagged. I
that's
almost
gross,
gagged right
yeah.
now just thinking of the smell.
Don't need to think about that.
Okay, bring us back on track. Bring us back on.
Okay,
so
so,
but you go down the real estate path. 2013, you jump into all this stuff. What leads you into why real estate? Why did you get into the real estate
Okay,
thing?
so it's funny listening to your podcast. It seems that there's people that get into real estate right when they're in their 20s, or like I did, I go to school, we get married, we get a house, there's kids are older. At the same time, we're investing in stocks. They're not really doing much of anything. But, the real estate thing seems to be working out okay. So later on in life, you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to go down that. I'm going to buy some rental properties. And I started in 2013 and never looked back. It was fantastic. Great move. And up until 2019, it was purchasing. I have properties in Hamilton, Oshawa, and Peterborough. And then the Corona hit, and then I kind of, sat back and said, okay, let's just see how we make out with this. Can everybody pay rents? The world didn't end. Everything went smoothly. And a funny thing happened on the way to that. I started in the summer of 2000. I started listening to Howard Linson.
Pull the mic.
Howard Linson with his Panic with Friends.
Okay. I know that podcast.
It's really good because
Yeah.
it talks about startups, but also, and so there was a lot of crypto in there. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then you guys were interviewing Greg Foss, heard his story. Mike Novogratz was interviewed by Tim Ferriss. That really impressed me. And then read the Bitcoin Standard. And then I was bought. I just like, wow, that's really good. And then in October, listening to Raoul Paul, and I thought, yeah, that's it. I'm going
You said
into
it was a Real Vision daily briefing episode. that you
Real
listened to.
Vision daily briefing. He always speaks on a Friday for the most part, and he is really good. And that brings us to
It's interesting. So you built a real estate, but we tell everyone's broke in their 30s. We don't see any clients in their 30s. We either see people in their 20s or in their 40s and beyond. We see very few people in their 30s, because in the 30s you're trying to buy your house, you're having kids.
Yeah,
you're
the cash is all going out.
The cash is going out.
Yeah.
You have nothing. So that's why you're hearing podcasts of people either in their 20s or in their 40s and beyond, because the 30s is like everyone's busy. No one wants to talk to us at that stage of life, and it's understandable. But for you got into the real estate investing. You picked in some of the great cities. You did rental properties.
And at the same time, like at around 2000 or just before, I was a bit of a gold bug. And that worked out okay till 2010, 2011. And if you look at the chart, it went sideways, actually a little bit down, and now it's back. It hasn't done anything in 10 years. So that's why at 2013, I just said, you know what? I'm going to have my normal gold allocation. That's it. Let's look at real estate.
Yeah,
and
cool.
I've done trading as well. No good at it. Fear, greed, I don't know enough, FOMO.
Yeah, don't
all that
follow
stuff.
the formula properly.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm thinking about it all the time. It's just a mess. So
I'm really good at buying high and selling low.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
me.
can,
I'm pretty good at. I can do that too.
I'm going to teach a course on that. How to buy high and
Yeah,
sell
sell
low
low.
in the stock market.
and do the opposite.
Yeah. So then you go through the COVID thing, and then this is interesting to me, because I find that most people who put in as much research as you have into Bitcoin will always proceed. They'll always kind of buy some. Very few people do a bunch of research about it and then say, I've looked into it, it's wrong. So what was it? Was it why did you go into it? What caught your attention about it? Why did you go down this rabbit hole?
Well, I think it was easier for me because I already had that gold background. So a store of value, the money printing, it's happening, and it was happening. And so for me, it wasn't that hard of a. It's like, oh, wait a second, this is all the benefits of gold and none of the negatives of gold. This is gold 2.0. Fantastic. So, I haven't looked back since. It's just it's a fantastic invention. But it's one of the things I do find is that when you commit, and now you want to tell everybody. Well, 80%. And I still just hearing that on a podcast. 80% of your friends or 80% of whoever are not into Bitcoin. So you tell them the story and they just look at you and go, what's that? Like, you can't hold it. What are you talking about? Or isn't it good? Isn't it bad for the environment? Or criminals use it. That's what I've heard. And so there's this. So I came to a point where I thought, okay, I have to have my elevator pitch. I'm going to say my little spiel because everybody says, well, can you explain it to me? So I go, this is what I say. I say, Bitcoin is a digital money that you can trade between each other over the internet without an intermediary or a middleman. Satoshi Nakamoto was the inventor, and there's 21 million.
How many countries have you been to? No, I want to. This circles back to Bitcoin. I'm just curious. How many countries have you been to as being a pilot?
I don't know. 75, 50?
So
50, 75?
In those 75 countries, this is what gets me, because you've seen a lot of different standards of living, the average standard of living amongst those 75 different countries. And a lot of that has to do with the way, and Tom will often speak about this, with the way the global monetary system's set up. And I think that's, to me, what the bigger picture behind this is that if you're able to then, if those types of people within all those different standards of living, good or bad, are able to remove the centralized control of their money supply into something else that is people trade and see value in, it changes the game in, out of those 75 countries, maybe 20 of them, let's say 50 of them, let's say 50 of them were first world. Let's say 50, probably not. But anyways, let's say 50, maybe the other 25, there's a huge advantage, a huge upside to them to looking at something else to use as some sort of store of value. I won't even say money, because they can still use a local currency, but as some sort of store of value, it's immense. And to me, that's the part that's often overlooked, because in North America, so many people look at it right now as a trade. Because it's popular now and it's gone up in price, it's a trade. It's something you can buy. It's going to go up in the Canadian dollar value or US dollar. Then you can sell it right away, versus what it could become is just this longer term asset. Right. That's how I look
I wonder.
at it.
It's a good point. I wonder if that has also, because it definitely, your gold background helps. But I wonder just if Patrick's worldview helps. The fact that he's traveled to all these countries.
Well, look, I can give you examples of what I've seen. Inflation. My first year at KLM flying to Brazil, that's 94, 95, they had a run on their currency. And so we always traveled with US dollars anywhere, because that's accepted anywhere. Yeah. And then you'd exchange your money, and then they said, well, spend it today because it's going to be less tomorrow. And you'd go into a restaurant, and there's stickers for the price of everything, because the next day they put another sticker on with a different price. And it changes.
That's what the vast majority of
people here don't get it.
Yeah.
Or Buenos Aires, there's an example. Today, if I fly to Buenos Aires, I show up at the hotel. There's someone that meets us. They say, hi, I'm, the money change person. I said, oh yeah, I know how that works. That's great. They'll come to my room. All the crew members come to the room, and we're all exchanging US dollars or euros for the Argentine peso, and they get then that hard currency. Because one day I'm looking and going, your exchange rate is actually really, really good. Like, you're not making any money there. They go, no, we don't want to. We just want you to do this because we're getting our hands on these
US dollars.
Yeah, because there's capital controls. We can't get US dollars. Right. We can't, they want us to use the local currency. And this is. And by the way,
God, so you're their only hope to get some US dollars.
Yeah, and last year and this year, 50% inflation. 50% inflation.
And they can't get.
What are they buying over there? Sergio Manzur's been on here before talking about Argentina, but when you're talking to these guys, are some of them saying, like, what are they doing with the US dollars? Do they just hoard those?
I don't know, but I haven't discussed that with them. But there was one time we were on this walking tour, and this American who had studied economics. I said, so, they just seem to always have this problem in Buenos Aires or in Argentina with politics and this and that. I said, okay, so how is it when you want to buy a house? He goes, oh, it's 10% loan to value. I go, oh, that's why even bother? Like, you're almost going to get no loan to purchase a home. You must just pay all cash.
Oh, got it. I was thinking, 10% down. You're thinking they have to put 90% down.
90% down.
Oh, sorry.
10%
in my mind.
Reverse too.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
And by the way, talk about inflation, Venezuela, Mark Yusko, he said the other day on a pasta, he goes, do you know the best performing stock market in the last 3 years? You saw that, yeah. Venezuelan stock market. And I looked at it, I go, what? And so they are required to post their returns in nominal values, meaning that it has to be in the Bolivar. Well, yeah, then it's going to go up because the currency has plummeted.
The Turkish real estate prices are way up too. But it's another currency that's just plummeted.
It kind of makes
right?
me wonder about investing in the stock market now here in North America, because if there's like a melt up in the stock market, stocks actually have to go up more in value than your dollars being depreciated. Because if you cash out from those stocks and you get Canadian dollars for them, if the things that you're then going to exchange for dollars, like real estate or food, if they're going up percentage wise higher than the stock market, you're falling behind. Even if the stock market's ripping forward.
But that applies to any asset
Any
class.
asset.
Yeah.
No, agreed. But I mean, you have this single point of exit in the stock market that you're typically coming out in Canadian dollars. There's no other options. Like if you own a rental property, Patrick can say, hey, you know what? Let's just agree that instead of paying me in Canadian dollars, pay me in lumber or pay me in cars or pay me in M&Ms or pay me in whatever you want. And you have that, you have a productive asset that you control yourself and you can decide what the exchange of value is going to be. Pay me in Bitcoin, right? But if you are in stocks, you're really only exit from there, unless you're like a major equity shareholder. You're going to borrow against your shares.
But then can't you take those and just exchange them for whatever you're going to exchange them for anyways?
No, agreed. But you have to do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like when we have friends over to talk to your point about the Argentinian example, when we had friends through the hyperinflation of in Croatia there in the 90s, they were getting paid and running to the stores at one point to exchange the currency for food or whatever they were buying because it was going down that fast. I just mean you're locked in there's an exit. And if everybody's trying to hit that exit at the same time, I'm not sure that that's the place you want to be.
By the way, the Bolivar, two things I saw that last year, their stock market was going up 40 to 50% per month. And this week or the last week, they said, okay, the Bolivar, what we're going to do is we're going to take the last 3 zeros off the currency. That's the new currency. So can you imagine? I've got 10,000 Bolivars. It's now 10. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Can you imagine that happening here? You'd be gutted. Like you would just, how do you live that way?
It's that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When you're in the system, you're subject to those types of actions.
There's a couple of further things because it depends on what you have and, you know, because what happens to prices, right? Because if the same thing, there is an argument to be made if the same thing happens to prices, then it's kind of, is it a wash?
Sure,
Except
but
some people bought them at whatever value.
No, agreed. Because if they take the 3 zeros off whatever else you're buying, okay, it's a wash. But I'm just saying I have no control.
Yeah, I agree.
I am just subjecting myself to whatever the government decides to do with the currency in the country.
And when Sergio was on here, he just talked about, was it Sergio or someone else? They basically just went in and took the money from the bank account too. Well, you know, so there's that it goes to your point about control. It's just, okay, 3 zeros off the currency is one thing. And then it says, by the way, if you have this much in your bank account, we're just going to come and take half. And that's a problem.
On that point, I don't think people quite realize how aggressive government's going to get. In Croatia right now, I know someone who owns a business where the government has gone in and taken tax, what they feel are as appropriate tax payments from this person's private bank account with no authority of the person who has the bank account.
That happens here.
The government just decided, no, they didn't send them a letter or anything.
Oh, I see.
They just decided it's tourist season. You operate this business. You should be paying us this much in taxes. We're just going to go in and take the money. Here,
that happened to Michael Saylor. He talks about having $1 million US in a bank account in Buenos Aires. Then the next day they said, okay, we're now changing it to Argentinian pesos. Can't touch it. And then I think it was the next day, then it went to 10% value. So he goes, yeah, I had $1 million, now it's only 100,000. And he was also talking about, I thought it was interesting, a side note was that he says a lot of people, if they need to get money out, one way to do it is they buy themselves a yacht or a boat. You just sail it away. Because at least that
I forgot he talked about that story.
That's something you can do. You can sail it away. You can't do that with a house. The house is stuck.
Yeah, buy a precious piece of art, buy a few Rolexes, put them on your wrist,
Yeah.
walk out of the country,
Yeah.
buy some gold
Travel
chains.
through Pearson with 10
Why do you think
Rolexes
Nick and
up
I
here.
wear some gold chains? We're walking through Pearson. We're walking through Pearson. Hey, we're coming in. We're coming through.
Yeah.
Tom, I don't know what Tom does. Just for the record, I don't do anything.
Hey, for the
anything
record, I was
wrong
actually a student.
crossing the border.
I was
ever.
a student customs officer at Terminal 1. This might be before your time. The old Terminal 1. I was a student customs officer there. And when we saw
Really?
the pilots come through with the crew, and they would always get the special treatment through that, hey, go right through. I'm always thinking to myself, these guys got extra bottles in their bags. There's no doubt about it. And they're just getting... We'll take a no comment.
There's no comment on that one.
Actually, on a separate note, I shouldn't even share this story, but our father brings homemade rakia, the from the grapes. It's they call it loza, but it's the homemade rakia, like a grappa in Italian, in the Italian world. And our father, I always tell him, hey, there's a limit. You can only take so much through. And he's like, no, well, what I'll do is I'll just take an extra bottle and I'm going to write my friend's name, Frank, on the label. And if I get pulled over at customs, I'm just going to say, well, that bottle's not for me. That's for Frank, my friend. And I'm always like, Dad, do you think someone else has definitely tried that trick? Like, it's not going to be like, okay to take the extra bottle through just because someone else's name is on it. But Patrick, back to you. When you do talk to people about this stuff, to me, sometimes I feel hesitant to almost use the word Bitcoin because everybody has an opinion on it. I like using the word of like, hey, this is just a sound form of money. This is a proper sound form of money, and let's have that conversation. So when you are talking to people, I could just imagine his co-pilot next to him thinking, oh my God, is this guy going to try and orange pill me with the Bitcoin stuff as well? Tell us more about like how you think...
Well, it's funny because so on this flight, I was talking to the co-pilot, and he goes, no, I'm not interested in Bitcoin. I said, well, do you know how it works? No, don't know how it works, but I'm not interested in it. And sometimes you have that. People don't want to... People have already made a conclusion and they don't want to investigate to change what they have in their mind. And so I just say, look, if you read the Bitcoin Standard, if you read that, chances are you're going to change your mind or at least have a better perspective on things. But people they go, no, don't want to. I heard it's bad for the environment. So I'm sticking to that story. Mm-hmm. And it's like, ugh. And so I also, I find like if I tell someone, I keep it short and sweet. And then I say, you need to read the Bitcoin Standard. Because if I start explaining more questions come up. You get stuck in the weeds. And it's like, this is not going anywhere. So I just say, look, you just have to. And it might take a week or two, right? It's not going to click the first time. I remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin. This was back at around 2012. And, they're talking about it because, I was into gold and and it was like $10 to $20. And then it went up to 50 and then up to 100. I thought, oh, I just missed that. Okay, forget it. Then it went down, then it went up. I said, oh, that's pretty volatile. Forget it. Then I didn't see it until 2017 when in that fall period and all the crew members, they're all buying Bitcoin. I'm like, what? What is this? And there was a steward. He goes, yeah, and I bought 2 miners. It cost me $14,000. I go, you're nuts. I thought to myself, you're nuts. $14,000 for 2 miners. Anyways, I don't know where that guy ended up, but
you don't see him anymore.
Maybe
he's doing okay. Who knows?
Yeah. And I remember at the time too, Kevin O'Leary. I saw him. For him, he says, look, if I want to buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, I need it to stay, if I'm going to buy it for $2.50, I need it to stay $2.50 from the time I order to the time I get my cup of coffee. And it seems Bitcoin just, it's volatile. Now, he's changed his mind
on things. He's flipped entirely, yeah.
He's flipped. And, once you understand how things work, it's not quite that way. But I must admit, at the time, I thought, okay, it's a currency. Well, I think the better narrative is to say it's a store of value. You want to buy it as a store of value. And if you're going to exchange things, maybe use a stable coin or the Lightning Network and those kind of things. But you're buying it to hold it and never sell it.
Are you doing any of that kind of stuff? Do you have any stable coins on deposit anywhere, earning interest, doing any of that stuff?
No, I haven't done any of that. I've used
game?
it to transfer money to buy things. There was, there was a coin that I really wanted to buy, and it was on Binance. Well, I bought it on Binance, and now I found out
As a
that
Canadian.
as a Canadian,
You can't get access to it.
Well, no, well, I have by the end of December to get it off that exchange. I'm like, you know what? So sometimes there's a lot of friction still. Like now, as a Canadian, you can buy a Bitcoin ETF. You can go to your TD Waterhouse in 5 minutes. You've got some Bitcoin. It's so easy.
Would you have bought some of this stuff without the real estate portfolio? Like, has that trumped it for you? Or do you feel good that you have some of these properties generating some income and that's an important role for you? What are your just thoughts on that?
Well, so I didn't, I just kept going with the real estate. I thought, well, this is going okay. And then Bitcoin came along, and now it's like, well, this is nice. Now I've got this bucket. And we're going to fill this bucket up.
Yeah, got it.
That's essentially what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you didn't
have... And the whole, I find it fascinating. Like, there's so much beyond crypto, NFTs, layer 1 protocols. There's so much to know. And it's actually too much. Sometimes it's like,
and it's difficult to keep up. I think if you're not keeping up with this space, this is the danger I feel for most Canadians right now. And I mean this seriously, that if you are not paying attention to this space, there is so much happening. But by the time you decide to start, you are going to feel even more behind. Like, I feel like putting out a banner from behind one of the KLM flights that you fly right across as you enter Canada through Newfoundland or over Newfoundland or wherever you're coming in from, that says, pay attention to this digital space right now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that urgently about it because Nick and I have been looking at the Lightning Network and we're like, hey, why don't we open some channels and kind of play around with this stuff? I think we had I mentioned to Nick about 2 months ago, like, I'm going to do it. We've gotten busy, haven't gotten around to it. Now I'm looking at where the Lightning Network is 60 days later. It's like an entirely new universe has opened up
fast.
with the amount of stuff. Jeff Booth was just talking at one of our recent events that it's 4%. It's growing 4% a day.
Yeah.
4% a day.
Yeah, but I think demand's still going to outstrip supply for the relatively near future because the demand's increasing so much too.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting, meaning that growth, the supply growth isn't even keeping up with the demand growth because you're talking the supply.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is even freakier to kind of think about.
Here's another statistic I love is that in 1997, the internet, 150 million people, it was growing at 63%. Now, 2001, 150 million using crypto, and it's growing at 113% a year. That's incredible. It's moving really fast. And
2021. But
do you think
you said 2001.
Yeah, sorry, 2021. Yeah, that's a big difference.
But you're right. Yes.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
there is an element of that the infrastructure is built out, right? Because the internet couldn't grow as fast because the network wasn't built out yet. So their physical infrastructure need to be laid. And I'm not saying it's not growing fast. It's incredible. Like it clearly is. However, now that the infrastructure is laid, the railroad is there for technology like this to be able to grow faster. But right, I think because the internet needed physical infrastructure.
Now we're all reaping the rewards of that, and this is growing
it's
faster.
Other things are going to grow. Yeah, and the computing power and the storage space and all, like everything. Remember to store you had a floppy. How big was the first hard drive that you had?
Oh my God, I had a floppy disk. I think it could store 16 kilobytes or something like that, if I remember right.
Like it's just like it was a joke. So now you got Amazon Web Services.
And now we've come to the point where regulators in the U.S. just today announced that they're going to start working with banks to custody Bitcoin. They just routers came out with a news release. They just said banks are going to custody Bitcoin and we're going to work with the regulations.
Which banks?
Them.
Canadian banks or
in
U.S.
the
banks?
U.S. In the U.S., they're just going to work with the banks to custody Bitcoin.
Wow.
So when banks can start,
we can't get there yet. Parliament still hasn't started up yet. I don't know if you know. So we'll get to.
We got our
ECF.
ETF. So Patrick, I'm curious. Someone like yourself, if you were listening to this and you're like, yeah, guys, enough about this thing. I'm here for your real estate chat and nothing else. I just want everyone to know we're here. Not about specifically real estate or specifically about Bitcoin. We want financial means and mechanisms where each of us can live life on our own terms. That's why we talk about this stuff. That's why we talk about real estate. It's why we talk about Bitcoin. So we really think this is important. I'm curious, from your point of view, if you were listening to this for the first time, who would you suggest or who resonated with you to follow on Twitter or to listen to podcasts? Who are some of the people? Raoul Pal was a big one for you, correct?
Look, but I certainly like listening to Michael Saylor, Hope.com. And, he speaks eloquently as a scientist, and he talks about this is thermodynamics. And at first you're like, what is he talking about? Wait a second. I remember Greg Foss, you saying, yeah, this is energy. I'm like, what?
You said it just like Greg Foss there for a second. So you started shaking while you said it.
This is energy. Yeah. So, look, So if you go to Michael Saylor's website, he has a ton of interviews to follow. I think if you read the Bitcoin Standard, get that basic knowledge, and once you read that, then you'll understand, because then you know how Bitcoin works, how blockchain works, how crypto works, and what the store of value is. And I think if you learn that, you can build on that, because there's so much. Like, I'm still trying to figure out, and I'm almost there. I feel I kind of know what an NFT is, but boy, oh boy, sometimes it's just like, what? Mm-hmm. What are they talking about? Like, how is this worth, $2 million, this digital photo? But once you start to, you just got to keep reading and learning.
So just to recap, Raoul Pal was a good one for you. Greg Foss, another one. Michael Saylor, for sure. Who else? Mike Novogratz is someone you like?
I like following Mike Novogratz.
Why do you like him?
Well, look, he's one of the adults in the room, and he keeps it real.
What do you mean by that? Keeps it real?
Well, look, he's not toxic. He's not a maximalist. He's digital, or Galaxy Digital is like the third largest holder of Bitcoin. If you look at the list, it's MicroStrategy, I think it's Tesla, and then Galaxy Digital. They're number 3, and then under that is Square.
Is Galaxy Digital on the Toronto Stock Exchange?
Yes, GLXY.
Why are they on the Toronto? They couldn't get permission or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why. They do
Exchange.
trade on the pink sheets on the NASDAQ. Now, it will go on the main NASDAQ
Yeah, we were just saying.
this month or next. So if you want to front run that, check
shit.
it
Look,
out.
you're smiling. You're so. Patrick's getting excited.
I'm talking my book.
But we know his track record on stocks. So
Yeah, exactly. Buy high, sell low.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Okay, and anyone who else comes to mind? Novogratz.
Preston.
Oh, Preston Pish.
Pish,
yeah, got it.
I like those guys because they don't, like some people I had to block. I said, you know what? It's just too negative. Because look, if I listen, a lot of it's on Twitter. So you get good stuff and bad stuff on Twitter. I think everybody has seen that. So these people, they're positive. And they're just trying to help the space. And they're coming out with really good information. Raoul Pal, I mean, he has a whole website dedicated to crypto. It's all free.
I have a question
all
for
free.
What do you think the Canadian government's going to do over the next 10 years? Do you see more taxation coming our way? Do you see more regulation around some of this stuff? If you just have to extrapolate forward from what your readings and your listenings, what do you think is coming our way in the economy? Is it just more of the same? Or
Well, they
is
seem to
it
be reactionary, and I don't see them, the issues with housing, I don't see any game plan. So I think it's just politics. They're going to see, how can I get elected for the next time? The same in the United States. And so what can I do? For example, do I raise taxes, or do I print more money? And I think for the time being, I think they're just printing more money.
I think they'll do both.
Well, yeah. So for the higher income, yeah, they might go to that, but it's just going to cause a lot of friction. But who knows? But that's what I see happening. I see for the time being, they're just going to keep kicking it down. Like it's so big now. And you talk to Greg Foss with that 4-to-1 ratio.
That's the most beautiful way to explain it. It's the best mathematical, cleanest way to explain it.
Yeah. How do you solve that? There's some.
And just for anyone listening who doesn't know that example, I just want to repeat it. If you don't know this example, it's that global debt is 4 times bigger than GDP. And if global debt has an interest payment on it, because it's debt, you have to pay someone of roughly 3%. So if the number 4 is at the top of this little equation and it's growing at 3%, what would the bottom, which is the number 1, which represents the GDP, have to grow at just to keep pace or keep the same spread between the debt and the GDP? If the top's growing at 3%, the bottom has to grow at 12%. our economy cannot grow at 12%. At least there's been no precedent for that. A 3% GDP growth in a developed country like Canada is fantastic. So to make up the difference between a possible 2 or 3% GDP growth to get the 12% growth that we need, we're going to have to stuff in a lot of newly printed dollars to get the inflation to equal 12%. This is just math, and this is why I feel like standing at the top of the mountains of the Rockies in Canada, and I want to fly the banner off one of your planes, that you must pay attention to this, because over the next 10 years, people who do not have hard assets are going to be absolutely mathematically destroyed.
Here's the other thing that Raul talks about, that there's all this money that's been injected into the system, and they want to stop that. That puts a real drag on the economy. All this 3.5 billion, when that ends, what's helping the economy? The economy either has to do it on its own, and if it doesn't, well, now you got a problem. Now you're going to go back to, okay, then we got to keep printing money, got to keep injecting money into the system. It's and your chart, the M2 to the price of properties. I mean, that just shows all that money printing, showing the value of the properties. I mean, if you look at that, you got to think.
That's weird. Mm-hmm. That chart's so weird. Like it seems to match too closely to be real. Right? It's like...
Well, I mean, we've talked about that chart a little bit, Patrick, and M2 is... So in a debt-based money system, for money to exist, new debt has to be created. So sometimes we think the real estate actually is creating the M2, and here's what we mean, that when Patrick goes to get a mortgage and you sign the piece of paper to get the mortgage, you're creating, if the mortgage is $500,000, you're creating $500,000 new dollars out of nothing. So and if that money goes into a lawyer's bank account or the seller's bank account, that is now counted as M2 from what I understand. So is the real estate leading the M2 creation, or is the M2 creation leading the and not that it really it doesn't even really matter. It really truly doesn't. The fact that it's just happening is what's important.
Yeah, well, even the M1 line, although it's lower growth rate, the line of it, the trend line, matches almost exactly as well, right?
What's the percentage of real estate lending for that M2?
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It's not 100%.
We have a homework project for you. You're wearing a Whoop band?
Yeah.
What are you gathering?
But I'm waiting for the update, the 4.0.
Oh,
but did you guys wear a Whoop?
I wore
a while ago, a couple of years ago now, when they first came out. I think Tom got them shipped over from California while we were in New York because he couldn't get them to Canada.
I smuggled them in. Yeah. Patrick, you have no idea. I discover these things.
You also have the Aura ring, no?
Yeah. Nick got me the Aura ring as well. I'm not wearing it right now, but yeah. But the Whoop band, are you following your HRV?
Look, you know what? I have so many things to charge. And
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's there, and sometimes I'll look at it, and then usually it's like, oh, you haven't charged in a while. It's like, okay, and
we went off.
It just gets crazy.
But as a pilot, I'm just curious. Sorry, I know we're off a tangent here. As a pilot, when you are going through time zones and stuff, do you notice any?
Oh my God! I've talked to him about that, how to manage that. So the best I can do with this is, for example, I keep my phone on Toronto time, but it does not manage well when I'm going through different time zones. And also, I'll go on board. If we do a flight to Singapore, it's a 12-hour flight. It's a 4-man crew, two fly, 2 sleep. So now you're going to go off. You'll sleep for 3 hours.
Where do you sleep?
There's bunks in the ceiling.
Really?
Yeah.
Nick, did you know that?
No, I had no
There's
idea.
There's bunks in the ceiling?
In the cockpit?
Yeah, so you leave the cockpit. Every aircraft, every company has their own configuration, how that works. But I'll leave the cockpit, and then there's a galley, and then one of these doors that are in the galley wall, you think, oh, well, I don't know what that looks like, a closet. Well, you open it up, and you climb these stairs, and there's 2 bunks, 2 seats. It depends on the...
2 seats? What, you got a lounge up there?
You can lounge up there, everything. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Come on.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Really?
Yeah.
Look, when we go to Johannesburg on a safari and we do a podcast in the middle of the safari, you guys will be up there relaxing.
Great. That's exactly.
You go to sleep.
So how long do you sleep for?
Well, it's a 12-hour flight, so I'll get 6 hours of time off. So I might sleep for 3.5 hours and then another 3.5 hours, or
Come
2.5
on.
hours. Yeah.
I thought you guys didn't even fly. I thought it was just autopilot. Don't you just press a button and it does everything?
Yeah, do an autoland.
Autopilot.
Like 99% of the time you do a manual landing to keep your skills up. But when the weather's lousy, you let the aircraft land. Yeah.
Do you ever hit? You know when you
Actually, you have to.
when you
Like,
hit
when
the
it gets
runway
to-
a little hard. Do you feel a little disappointed in yourself? Like, oh damn, that was a little rough landing.
Yeah. Yeah. You're good landing.
Because you know if there's a really good landing and everyone's like, whoa, everyone in the back's like, oh man.
And
That
then
was
sometimes when it's like thud,
when you hit it and everybody's like,
you-
whoa.
Yeah, you bounce back up. And you're like, what the hell was
Then
that?
I say, okay, that was the co-pilot.
Do people? Our father's generation still claps. Like when we landed. I think we were landing in Germany, and our dad started clapping, and he starts looking around like no one's clapping. I'm like, Dad, I don't really think people do that anymore. Do people still clap on landings?
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
But it
So
depends
what
on
is
the crowd. So
Yeah.
on charter flights, you get a lot more of that.
Oh, because you're landing in like one of the islands.
Everybody's kind of having fun. It's family and kids. And
when you come back to Toronto, no one's clapping.
Everyone's been drinking. Everyone's been drinking. They're like, yeah, let's go to the
landing
beach.
back in Toronto. Everybody's like, boo.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I just want to get out of the cigar. I'm done with this plane.
Out of the cigar.
Yeah, this long cigar.
I can't believe there's bunks on a plane. I had freaking no idea.
Yeah, well, the cabin staff has it as well, in the very back.
So when
They
I
have
can't
to-
get my glass of wine, that's what's happening.
Right. That's right.
Oh,
Half of them
God.
are sleeping. So half sleep, the other half
Because
are
if it's a long
walking around.
flight, I never got it.
It's a long, long time. Yeah, 12 hours.
When does it? How long does the flight have to be for that to happen? Like anything over 6 hours? Anything over 8 hours?
For us, it's over 8 hours. Then it's a 3-man crew. And then when you're approaching 12 hours,
It's 4
then
men.
it's 4 men. So Buenos Aires, that's a 4-man crew. Santiago. And remember, it's always out of Amsterdam. Because when I talk to people, they go, oh, from Toronto to Mexico City, that's not so far. No, I'm going Amsterdam, Mexico City.
Because
I start and finish in Amsterdam. That's where I work out of.
Always?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
All your
so
flights?
I always commute
to Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Dude, that's a commute.
So,
Holy
well,
shit.
yeah.
So you have to get on someone else's flight to get to work?
So I'll get on the KLM flight. It's a 2-man operation because Toronto to Amsterdam is not a long haul flight.
No,
It's a 2-man
6
crew.
hours.
It's going to Amsterdam 6.5 hours. So on Sunday I left. I said, hey guys, jump seating, like catch me if you can. Hey guys, hey. And then they go, hey, go to the bunk. So I go upstairs and I slept the whole way. Then I arrive in Amsterdam. I go to the apartment in Amsterdam. I overnighted in Amsterdam. And then I was telling Tom that at 1:30 today, I got up and then I flew to Toronto.
So what if you flew to Mexico City? You would fly there. You would spend a day or two there. You would fly back to Amsterdam. Then you would come back to Toronto.
Yeah, and so normally, especially when I'm going home, I'll just catch the next flight. So, for example, so tomorrow I'll operate the aircraft back to Amsterdam, and then 3 or 4 hours later, the Toronto flight departs Amsterdam for Toronto. I'm on that flight. Am I tired? Yeah, probably. And I'm going to go in the bunk. And I sleep the whole way.
Wow.
Do the pilots ever there like knock on the bunk and say, hey man, like I'm a bit tired. Can you just do me a favor? Can you take over?
No, I say, shut up. It's a 2-man crew. Suck it up. You got to
Suck
it up, Buttercup. They know. They're
Yeah.
they.
But you're probably not even allowed to do that. I'd imagine there's some regulation, right? You can't just have some guy, some other.
I'm totally
pilot.
tired. I'm not,
Are you when you're doing these catch a commuter flight? Are you dressed in their?
Yes.
Okay, you have to be in the pilot
Yeah, there's a
uniform.
whole protocol for that.
Oh, there is. Eh?
Yeah. So and it's great because then it's easy to get through the airport. And in Amsterdam, I usually walk with the crew, and we get to the aircraft. It's all good. It's very easy. Yeah.
This is freaking me out. I cannot believe you commute to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And that's done.
I've done that 27 years.
And that's done in the airline industry everywhere. Like if somebody's working for,
It's very common in North America. Okay, there are commuters at KLM, not as many as in North America. Because in North America, you'll have bases. So someone might start, in Toronto, and then for Canada, and then it's like, oh, I want to be based out of Vancouver, but I won't feel like moving to Vancouver, so I'll just commute to Vancouver. And so there's all that maneuvering about.
Really?
But for me, it was, it's a long story why that ended up happening. But I've been doing it for 27 years. It's good. No problems. I love the airline.
I was just telling Patrick that we had that. I always forget what it's called now. Business class and KLM, and how amazing it was. We were blown away. KLM's amazing. We should take KLM more often. Maybe we'll see Patrick.
Well, look.
Now we know where to find him in the freaking bunk. Hey, Patrick.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'll get you guys in the bunk. You can sleep the whole way. Hey, that was good. And you have your meal.
Yeah.
You'll have your filet mignon.
I had no idea. Clueless. Sorry, Nick.
No, I was going to say last time I think you were in business class, but this was not KLM. You were talking about filet mignon. Tom got like a falafel because on one way you took Air Canada, and this year for some
I
reason
wasn't going to throw Air Canada under the bus, but on Air Canada,
was like it was a falafel
signature
wrap.
class, they had the falafel wrap, and I'm like, hey, I don't know, we kind of splurged on this flight. Can we get like a steak or something? And all they had was the falafel because of COVID. They didn't have the options. It was like, sorry, our menu is like down to this because of COVID. I'm like, what does falafel versus steak have to do with we can are we just going to label everything?
I had taken KLM over. I'm like, I know KLM was great, man. I had my steak. I had a few different
but on that
wines,
flight over, I had the pod thing where I could lie down. You had a regular seat, no, in the KLM flight?
It was the KLM first, whatever the first class was, or business class or whatever it is.
Yeah, got it.
And the same type of thing.
So you got the upgrade as well?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes. I guess.
See how Tom tries to just say,
No, I forgot. I thought you told me. I thought you told me that it was a little different. I can't remember everything.
Well, it wasn't the full pod, but the seats still, don't they lie down, the seats?
Yeah.
I think they still lie down. It's just it's not the full pod setup or whatever.
Yeah, got it.
Every company is different. Like Emirates, they have, if you go in their A380, you go upstairs, the front half is first class, and then the aft section, and I think there's like 80 business class seats, but it's an A380, so they have a second level, and it runs the entire length.
For only 80 seats.
All business class, and when you walk there, they all have their own mini bar.
Come on.
I've never seen that. I thought, oh, wow, look at
some
that.
of the Emirates, and I've never been on an Emirates flight, but some of them have like a little cabin with like a shower.
Yes, so
right?
that's it. Yeah, you can take a shower, be freelance, but I don't know.
So
that's good. But they would have a phenomenal lounge as well.
But flying one of those double decker things, can you fly? Like, is that plane so huge that you need different training on that plane?
So every aircraft, you require training for that new aircraft. So you don't switch from. If you switch from one aircraft to the next, you have to be retrained. Because it different numbers, different policies, different procedures.
And like when let's say you're flying to Hawaii. I remember we flew into Maui. And the pilot was so great because he flew us right around the top of the volcano there. Like everyone's like, look at this view. And it was amazing. Like, do you have some leeway when you're flying? Like, can you pull into Hong Kong and say, I really just want to capture a better view, and you just take a slightly different path a little bit? Can you do like that a little bit or no?
Years ago, I remember you'd fly to Cape Town and you'd do a circuit around Table Mountain. Can't do that anymore.
So because that circle you were just doing ad hoc.
Well, the company just said, look,
stop freelancing.
How much fuel does that take?
Got it.
So they're all looking at that, and also, it's let's just stick to the flight and this extra stuff. But that's years ago.
Let's not have some fun. I feel like years
that's
ago.
25 years ago.
I feel like 25 years ago there was a little more things you could do that were a bit more fun.
Yeah. Well, look, there's been a number of things that have gone off flight path, and now there's probably a lot more fear when someone goes off flight path.
Not only that, like they see everything you do. Like if something goes wrong, they said, hey, so what happened there? Like
so they review it after, even if a flight's successful, you go land, they're still reviewing some sort of
let's say the oil pressure's low or something fails. That's anything they can monitor everything.
That's
from
interesting.
afar.
You're saying that because I had my first experience in the Tesla here. That when I was driving it, I've been playing around with the navigation and the stuff, and it's amazing.
Do you think you're a pilot now that you're on a Tesla?
I swear to God, I think I can fly for Patrick as backup. With this car, I feel like I've learned enough that I feel like I'm in a rocket ship. But
does it have a bunk?
No, that's a good point. I think in the back though, if you put the seats down, I'm pretty sure there's like this blow up mattress thing that you can get that fits the Tesla. So yeah, I think it does have a bunk back there. But when you're driving this car, it's collecting so much data that Sienna and I were in the car, and two cars almost hit each other about a car length in front of us, and I had plenty of room to stop. But it was alerting me like I had not seen that potentially to stop. And I had literally nothing to do with this, which I thought was fascinating. But then last night, I kind of maybe ran a yellow. Like I ran a light a little bit, and before I went into the intersection to run this light, the Tesla starts sounding an alarm in the freaking car.
Really?
Yeah. So then I thought, oh my gosh, when this data eventually gets fed up to the insurance companies, I'm up the creek, because my driving style, like you go from like all the benefit. This is classic. This is like social media, internet connectivity, sharing our lives. This is everything. So now my driving habits. How easy is it, just like with the pilot? How easy is it for the insurance company to say, you know what, we'll give you a discount if we can just tap into your Tesla to see how you drive. And if you're a great driver, you'll take the discount. Or if you're someone like me, you're like, listen, I don't really want to take the...
Your rate's going up next month. It goes month by month, depending on how many yellow lights you ran that month.
Yeah.
Like it could be.
And then what happens if you don't have the exception and they just say, sorry, you can't even drive anymore because you're so shit?
You know, it's funny when we talk about technology. I remember in 1994, you'd show up to the hotel and all the cabin staff would run to the front desk and say, did I get a fax? Yeah. Oh, Annika, Nushka. And so, oh, look, I got a fax. There's a drawing. There's some text. That was the messaging back then. That was your SMS, your email, whatever. And it was only a few years later, it was like, oh, there's this new thing called internet. Oh, how does that work? Oh, and then CompuServe had a decent world coverage that you would use to log in, you know, the dial tone to get, but that, you know, and now look at what we have. It is
Think about
technology
this. Think
has
about
gone
this.
crazy.
With the amount of the monetary network, the way it's expanding on this Bitcoin layer, you could be in Europe buying a round of drinks for people, and I could text you saying, hey, Patrick, let me pay. And even though I don't have European currency, if they're accepting Bitcoin through the Lightning Network, you can take a screenshot of the QR code, SMS it over to me. I can pay for that tab here in Toronto and buy you guys drinks over there. Doesn't matter the currency, doesn't matter anything. Yeah. And this is all coming. I've been tipping people on Twitter, and just to see how this works, I have a Blue Wallet on my phone. I created a Bitcoin wallet, and I also created a Lightning wallet. I moved some of my Bitcoin from the Bitcoin wallet to the Lightning wallet. And then I went on Twitter and I saw the little $sign logo. So I'm like, I can start tipping. I almost freaked out. Patrick, I wasn't having lunch over here. I tipped somebody. I ran over to Nick. I go, I just shared my first tip. And I tipped like Jack Mahlers and Preston Pish. And I was just kind of everyone who I picked up some value from, Robert Breedlove. And I started tipping them. And I thought it was just incredible. If you've never done this, you just on Twitter, you hit the dollar symbols. And because I had a Lightning wallet on my Blue wallet on my phone, up comes my Blue wallet.
You told me about it. That's how I got the Blue wallet.
Is that how you? Yeah, that's right. Sorry. And it, you know, you can pick $1, you can pick $10. I think there's a cap. I tried it. It's $99 right now. And but you can tip $1. Off it goes. There's like no fees to this thing. And if you just extrapolate that forward 3 or 4 years, where the heck are we? You could be anywhere in the world. You can be on Safari somewhere. You catch an internet connection. I could be sending you cash. Right now I have a friend in California, and she always buys us certain stuff for different reasons. And we're always like, oh, I'll pay you via PayPal, but the exchange rate, and then how do I get the money to my bank account? And it's like, it's possible. And we always say, you know what, just wait till you're in Toronto next time and pay us back for that, or vice versa. But now it's just, this whole friction is disappearing in front of our eyes.
And you know what's exciting? For example, Elon with his satellites, he's going to cover the entire globe. There are so many people that still don't have internet. We take it for granted, but there's so many people, for example, in Africa or South America, or people that are isolated, and they're going to have internet, and they can have a Blue wallet, and away they go. And that's the other thing I really like about Bitcoin. It's like, okay, anybody can hold property. You don't, a house, that's an expensive thing. People are getting priced out of that market, but you can buy $100 of Bitcoin, and there you have it. You've got so someone in Africa can buy $10 of Bitcoin. And now they have property rights.
Well, isn't Nigeria one of the population base, one of the biggest countries for use of Bitcoin? The biggest, I think. Is it the biggest? One of the biggest? It's or by dollar amount. I forget the stat, but it's right up there. And the same thing, the government's kind of freaking out about it. They're looking how they can end it, but it's too late. And in that type of economy, with when you need U.S. dollars or a different currency because of what's happening in the corruption, that type of stuff, they look for a way out. And it's no different than what would happen in all these other places, like in Turkey, and what was happening in Lebanon with the central bank and all this stuff. Like, I just think that's the biggest thing that people miss.
And right now, all the major banks in the United States are now trading in crypto because the clients want that. And all these major hedge funds or portfolio managers are also getting on board. And what I find interesting, for example, what's his name now? Warren Buffett. He turns around. First off, he says, oh, gold, it's a shiny rock, don't want anything to do about it. Or he ends up buying Barrick Gold after the market crashed in 2019. He says, crypto, that's rat poison. Well, he's turned around and bought $500 million worth of this Brazilian bank. It's the largest online bank in the world, has 41 million customers, and they deal in crypto. And Brazil is about to approve Bitcoin as something that you can trade online. So he's involved. even though he says crypto.
I have a real problem with how.
Look, total respect for that guy.
Yeah, I've lost. You have it, and many of my friends have respect for Warren Buffett, and I feel like I've lost almost all respect. And I know he's an older gentleman, and I should be gracious to my elders. I just feel like if you own banks and insurance companies, it's in his best interest to tell people gold is rat poison and Bitcoin's rat poison. And I feel like someone of his wealth, the biggest service he can do back to the population for all the benefits in life that he's gotten is to share with people what he truly believes, what his own father, I think what Charlie Munger's father or Charlie Munger himself talked about gold, to play this game that this stuff is rat poison at this point, to me is disheartening, and I feel morally corrupt. I really strongly feel that way about him because he's put up on a pedestal so highly, and he has such a platform that to not at least acknowledge what he thinks the pros and cons are, even if he disagrees with it, but to dismiss it outright and label it, it's the weakest form of debate.
I'd have a lot more respect if he said, because he'd always say, technology, I don't get it. Just say that then. Say, I don't understand it, because that's most people are like that.
That's all I ask.
But to say it's rat poison, how do you know?
Then you must understand it. Because to label it as rat poison, you must understand it. That's all I want. So I'm agreeing with you 100%. Sorry, Nick.
No, there's another point.
So Patrick, because you have some real estate investments now, and now you're acquiring some Bitcoin. If someone listening to this, is thinking to go down this path, what do they do? To give them the steps.
So
we'll wrap up with this.
Look, the thing is, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So do a little bit of research, learn what Bitcoin is all about. I always come back to Bitcoin because I find that the easiest of everything to learn, and then from there you can build on to what Ethereum is or NFTs and whatnot. Read the Bitcoin Standard or anything like that, and if you're still on the fence, buy yourself $100 worth of Bitcoin. You can now buy it as an ETF. You could do that with any trading account. And then you have it, you probably think about it more, digest it. And, a lot of people say, well, you know what, I missed the boat. It's gone up. Okay, dollar cost average. Just buy $100 every month.
That's a good
So you're
point.
going to buy low. If it just keeps going up, at least you're participating and it goes up. If it goes up and then it goes down, that's okay too. You're just going to you're averaging in. And if you set it every month at a particular time, it's a habit and it's going to happen. Or you can automatically set it. And it's like, okay, I don't even have to think about it. Sit on your hands and watch it all happen.
On the real estate front now, so thank you for that. As you travel, and you've shared that we share, and I'm sure you're gathering data from everywhere you can about the population growth numbers in this area. You visit a lot of cities. What's your take from above, from 10,000 feet? How high are you up in the air? 30,000 feet?
We start around 28,000,
28,000,
29,000, depending on how many
from your
passengers. These days,
28,000
we're higher because we're lighter. There's not that many.
Oh,
passengers
really?
are coming back. Yeah, so if you're really heavy, so if we depart fully loaded and with fuel going to Singapore, we're going to be around 29,000, 30,000 feet. And then as you're progressing, you're burning fuel, you're getting lighter, and you slowly go higher and higher and higher. And then maybe as you get to Singapore, you're at 38,000 feet.
And how fast are you going?
We're going about 500 knots. So that's, let's say, 900 kilometers an hour, something like that. Yeah.
Do you ever kind of just step on the gas a little bit?
We're almost, there's not much wiggle room there.
Okay.
I mean, if we're running behind, there's a little bit, but it costs fuel there's not much room there. You're almost right at the red line.
But if you get some tailwind, maybe.
Yeah.
You get some tailwind.
For sure.
What's the fastest you've ever gone? If you have to guess. Have you crossed 1,000? Is it possible in one of these planes? Cross 1,000 kilometers an hour?
Probably, 30% faster than went north. For sure, when there's these jet streams crossing
Can you
Atlantic.
catch one of those?
So as we're going to Europe, they set up these track systems, these highways. Air traffic control does that, and they plop it right on those jet streams. It might be a little bit turbulent, but you're going to have a lot of speed.
Whoa,
so you get there sooner and less
so
fuel.
Now we put up with the turbulence so you could save money on fuel.
You want to get there sooner, right? You're bored in the plane.
I want to shake my glass. I want to eat in peace.
You might want a second falafel wrap.
Yeah.
And
then the people coming the other way, we're going to avoid that. We're going to go
I know.
north or south.
One time I flew back from Rome, I feel like I hit the North Pole.
Oh, yeah.
You went so high. I can't remember what was happening on that
yeah.
flight. I'm like, we were like almost north of Iceland. I'm like, what's happening here? How many planes are in the sky that we're way up here?
One last thing I wanted to mention too is that getting back to Bitcoin was that
It always comes back to Bitcoin, doesn't it?
yeah, it's the apex predator. You know, it's going to suck everything in. No, but MasterCard.
Between the two of you, I'm just sitting here
why you're
shaking
here.
my
You
head.
guys seen this movie for some? We're like two little kids in a candy
that's why
store.
you're here. That's your role. That's your role.
Yeah, you need to calm us down.
Like, go ahead. What were you going to
But
say?
MasterCard has stated, this was just yesterday,
yeah.
that they're going to allow all their banks, look at this, stop that. They're going to allow all the banks that deal with MasterCard to deal with crypto.
Yeah, they have to.
And then two pension funds.
South Korea.
South Korea and in Texas, there was a pension fund. Both are going to start buying Bitcoin. Now, that's a big deal because pensions are the most conservative group, super conservative. Everything had to be approved, and they're getting into it. So, you know, if you just look at what's happening up above at
it's a
these
trend.
high levels of Wall Street and the pension funds, I think you have to follow their lead and say, well, you know what? Maybe I have to have something.
We strongly believe in riding trends. It's kind of like the jet stream.
Yeah.
If you can find that jet stream and get on board, you're going to fly.
Yeah, and this is going to go on for
I have,
a while.
But I have one question as we wrap here. Your view from high above in the plane, when you look at the city of Toronto compared to some of the other cities you go in, we always talk about the population growth here. Do you see that? Do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I fly into Toronto, I see urban sprawl and I see houses. And not many, there are apartment buildings. Go to South Korea, go to China, Hangzhou. It is blocks and blocks of apartments. But Hangzhou, I didn't know anything about Hangzhou. I went there for the first time 2 years ago. Oh, it's 9 million people. They've got a modern subway system.
Small
with
little 9 million.
all these different lines. And it's like there's thousands. So I think the reality of what's going to happen in Toronto with real estate, they're going to have to start building up. Or what about? Did you see what happened in New Zealand? Now
Yes, I did.
With they're changing all the zoning for the entire
Country, I think.
Yeah, that you can build. I think up to
it's
6 units.
Yeah, at 3 levels and 6 units with no zoning requirements. I don't know if you saw that, Nick. They just said, forget it. We need to build. Let's build. I'm sure stuff like that's going to have to come here.
Yeah.
I think so.
Patrick, thank you so much for this.
Hey,
I
thanks for
really
having
appreciate your energy.
Hey, and I love
the
this shirt.
T-shirt. You
This
can't
is
see
awesome. You guys created
Patrick
it.
has a Your Life because of you. So for those who don't know the story, Patrick was on Twitter and he had one of our Your Life Your Terms T-shirts and he put a Bitcoin sticker on top of it, and that was your profile picture on Twitter.
Yeah. It's still there.
Greg Foss sees this, and we've given him many Your Life Your Terms T-shirts. He sends me a text one day out of the blue. Hey, why didn't I get that T-shirt? Like, why do I get the regular Your Life Your Terms T-shirt? I'm like, well, that's not an actual T-shirt. Patrick just made that with a sticker.
I'm going to make it an NFT.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So we ran a special order of T-shirts here. I think we just ordered a dozen of them. You got one. Our team got one here. And of course, Greg Foss got one, which is the Your Life, Your Terms T-shirt with the Bitcoin on it. So thank you for being the inspiration
you.
for that. And
You guys have been
Patrick,
great.
hey, listen, thank you for being a supporter of ours and like coming here and doing this and sharing your message. You don't have to sit down. You're just off a flight from Amsterdam. Your pilot's jacket's right behind you. You don't have to do this and share your message.
No, I loved it. I wanted to.
Yeah,
It's good.
so
It's important.
we couldn't agree more. So thank you very much. Really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can find every new episode of the Your Life, Your Terms show on all the major streaming platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And if you'd like to get free copies of some of the books that we've put together, like these right here, or some of the reports that we've put together, like these right here, you can find all of those at www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.